Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter Podcast, your number one source of all things bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. Now, here's your host, Leroy Rollins.
All right, people, welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter Podcast. I am here with my fellow Canadian athlete, Brent Fudge. Introduce yourself to the people, my man, and then we'll just dabble right into this.
Hey guys, my name is Brent Fudge. I reside out in Hamilton, Ontario, and I enjoy getting pumped.
The man enjoys the lifting game, like the listeners probably are into that as well. So, let's start, man, from the top. Like you've been doing this for quite some time now. So start with how it all began.
Sure. For me, it began, I would say, 15, 16 years old. I was a very short, skinny kid, and as many would know, that doesn't go well over in the school grounds, and so I was often picked on quite a bit. So that point sort of got me into wanting to work out. Now, back then, there was no weights. You know, I was out in the country. There was no gyms, no nothing. For anybody that knows the area, I was out in Clinton, Ontario, which is Highway 7 and 41 Caledar area. And so for me, it was lifting the bed, the end of my bed, doing 500 sit-ups every night, about 200 to 300 push-ups every night, and cycling. I did my legs. A lot of people comment on was from about 6 to 8 hours of cycling frequently.
Oh, wow.
On weekends. So that would happen maybe twice to maybe 3 times a week of just driving to the next town. That's pretty much how it all started for me.
That's crazy. Like you just biked for fun, or were you going somewhere?
I biked for fun. It first, of course, started with meeting a nice young lady. And
I knew there was something. I knew it wasn't just for, no one just bikes for no reason. Come on.
Exactly. So it started from there, and then I got to enjoy it quite a bit, and it went from there. I continued to cycle. I did a lot of hiking as well. So equivalent hiking. Hiking was about 3 hours. You know, Mom would say, hey, go get lost. And so we would go out in the woods and we'd go hiking for, 1, 2, 3 hours walking around. So that's, I guess, where I started in the actual physical activity area.
That's crazy. Okay, so now when did you transition to the gym?
Transition of the gym happened when I was around 19 years old, around there. I was out in Toronto, and I was 18, no, in Fleming. I went to Sir Sanford Fleming, and I had gym access there. So I started working out there. So that's when I started spending more time actually going to the gym, lifting. Now, mind you, I had no coach. I had no knowledge. I just went out like anybody and just said, I'm going to lift.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it started.
Do you remember what those first year in the gym looked like? Like for me, for example, as with a lot of young guys, it was lots of biceps, lots of chest, like you said earlier, sit-ups and crunches, the beach muscles, right? Was that you, or did you do...
No, that was not me.
Interesting.
Me, it was legs. So, guys love to walk around me while I sit on the slide, and I'm pressing 1,000 pounds and getting 2 people to stand on top of it and pressing more weight.
Yeah.
So, working on my legs, working on my calves. That was the main thing for me. Upper body wasn't my biggest thing. My abs were probably the next, so I focused a lot on my abs. So legs and abs for me back then.
So you were the opposite. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you remember why you did that? Why was legs so important to you at that time?
I think it was because of all those years of cycling when I was younger. So spending that much time cycling, I knew that my legs were strong enough that when I got on there and I was lifting for the first time, I was like, wow, I could lift a lot of weight.
Yeah. That's fair.
You just kept going. And the same thing with the core. Because of my workouts with core, I enjoy doing core a lot.
That's interesting. It's still the same concept of but you were just reversed. Your legs were strong, so you worked them more. Whereas, usually, at that age, legs aren't a priority, so they get neglected. You were the opposite, but still the same.
Exactly. That's right.
Right on. So, okay, so it started with some intense legs. When would you say you got into, okay, if I'm interested in potentially doing a physique sport, I need to start taking training more seriously. I need to structure it a little bit better. When did that happen?
Really, that didn't happen till around 2015, 2016. So there's a big gap in there because, I had married, I got kids, I got busy.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I started looking at myself and like, oh gosh, I'm not the guy I used to be. It happens. Guys know that. You get married, you get busy, things fall behind, full-time work, full-time kids, full-time dad, full-time husband. And it sort of went that way. So I started going to workout. Now, the workout started around 2014, 15. It really wasn't about going and competing. It was more about me just trying to get into shape.
Yep.
But as I continued to get into shape, I continued to look better. I started just narrowing down on looking better, focusing more on looking better, and building. And I was like, you're molding around. Yep. You're like, okay, what else can I do to my body?
Sure.
If I continue to focus on that. 2016, Barry was with his fiance, and for some reason or another, he ended up with an injury and he couldn't do it. So I did with the last 8 weeks of the competition. I said, you know what? I think I'm good enough. I can get into shape for the show. And this was for Coburg Naturals in 2016. And I went and I competed at the show with her, so she wouldn't be by herself. And at that point, that's when I took. Wasn't a big show at that point in time. Wasn't a lot. Well, mind you, I was competing in Masters.
Yep.
So there was only a few of us. So I ended up placing first, and that sort of lit the fire for me. And I continued. Now, I did not have per se a coach.
Yep.
I did have someone who was helping me, and he guided me quite a bit, and I'll very be thankful for him getting me that guidance. But then at that point, I realized I want to get into it serious.
Nice.
And that's when I started researching coaches.
Yep.
So around after that show, I started looking into what kind of coaches were available, who had the best knowledge, the most amount of knowledge.
Right on. So run me through kind of what that eight weeks looked like. Was it very strict with it? Were you doing a lot of cardio? Like, what did it look like?
One thing about myself is when I go and do something, I'm very focused. I'm on there. I'm getting right down to the nitty gritty.
Yep.
Now, I didn't understand how to calculate macros or anything like that. What I knew is really simple. You lose weight. So what I did was, unknowingly, I just slowly started taking away food for myself.
That's kind of what my first one looked like, too.
Exactly. To get myself looking into better shape. I realized that, it's just really common sense. You take away the food and you keep working out, you're going to burn fat. And so I just went on with that ideology and continued from there. Yep. And I still had some guidance at the same time. So that was pretty much my focal point. I didn't miss a day in the gym. I was in Peterborough, Ontario, and shout out to my friends from Peterborough. I had good life there. A lot of them know me.
Yep.
And I just spent a lot of time focused right in there.
Nice. So when you started doing, more physique-oriented training, were there areas that needed to catch up to your legs? Was there stuff that was kind of lagging behind? Like, how did you address that?
See, that didn't really happen, and this is why I often will post or talk a lot about the importance of having a coach. I didn't have a coach per se, so I did not have the knowledge or understanding of symmetry and balance.
Sure.
I just figured, if I had the right conditioning, I looked muscular, I have a chance.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how it worked for me at that point.
Right on. Okay, so 2016 Coburg Naturals, you stepped on stage, took first in Masters. Was that physique too?
That was, men's Masters physique short class.
Okay. So 2016 happens, then what? When's the next time we go to the stage?
So, before stage, I started looking for a coach. I went around looking at all the different teams, and eventually I decided, after attending a seminar called Elite Coaching Systems, I met with Amr Kamara,
Yep.
Amr the Hammer, as we all know him.
Yep.
And it started from there. And let me tell you, this guy was, because he was like, you know what? I'm busy. I'm busy. So I kept chasing him down, emailing him, and he's like, okay, you know what? If you want on, I'll tell you what, I'll give you this coach. I'm like, why would I go to your assistant when I can go to the master and get all the details that I need, from that very person?
Yeah.
And eventually he said, okay, I'll take you on. I told him, I promise you, I'll give you 110%. And it went from there. So we started. And I competed at Stratford at 2016 or 17.
Yep.
And I did my master's short class, and I took first there.
Yep.
And then I took overall, and then I also competed in the Open, and I took second place in the Open.
Nice.
So that was there, and then we figured, hey, what the heck? Coburg is around the corner. I did it once. Let's go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And so a week later, we went and continued on. Let me tell you, anybody who does back-to-back shows, you know how that could be after a show. You're thinking, hey, I'm going to get a nice meal. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to keep going.
Yeah.
And went to Coburg, placed same thing as well. I won first place in Master Short. Because of the amount of people, they combined them. So technically, I guess I took overall as well.
Yep.
And then I placed second again in the Open.
Right on.
And that was 2017. So that was a good busy time. Yeah,
no doubt. So have you been on stage again since? I don't really remember.
I did. So what I did was I took a little bit of time off. I waited. We decided that I was going to do sort of like a mini off season, and I went to compete 2018 at the Toronto Naturals, or the Toronto Open Show for Nationals. And I took third place there, and I realized that I was in the most intense, leanest conditioning I've ever been in my life. I think we figured I was probably anywhere from about 2% body fat to maybe 3% body fat. And that was notable because the judges came aside to me and said, hey, best conditioning we've ever seen you in.
Wow.
And I wasn't really happy about that show. We all know what it's like when you don't place what you think you should be placing.
Yeah.
And we've got to realize that there are reasons why you don't get that place, because for me, they knew me well enough to say, hey, this is what we thought, and I really appreciate it. That's one of the things I like about the CPA. The judges are very open with you. They will give you guidance. They will take the time to nurture you and put you where you need to be.
Yep.
So basically, I was told, you know what, your conditioning is down pat, not an issue. You need to work on your posing a little bit more,
right.
And most importantly, you need size. You don't have the right size.
What did you weigh on stage? Do you remember?
When I first was on stage, I was about 130, 36 pounds, and then I was a 141, I believe, at the Toronto Nationals a year later.
Yep.
And so now I'm off season again, and I will be competing again next year in October, and gains are looking pretty good so far.
Nice. That's awesome, man. So talk to me a little bit about your coaching experience with him. Like I know exactly who you're talking about. I follow him as well, and I think it's interesting the route he takes, because he can be very, very serious to the point where if you don't, how do I put this? If you don't take it for what it is, I think it can rub people the wrong way. But
Absolutely. What I have to say first of all is, if you're serious about competing, have a coach. Always have a coach. And I'm a big time believer in having a coach year round. I think that's very important.
Right.
Because the end of the day is, you can make a judgment about yourself and how you look, but you need someone who's going to critique you the way that you will not critique yourself. So year round coaching, I stress, is very important if you want to be successful.
Yep.
So with that being said, if you have thin skin, you're probably not best to go with Amber as your coach. You're probably best to take one of his other coaches. But Amber is a no-nonsense kind of guy. He'll tell you like it is, and that's the way I prefer it. I like for you to tell me, hey, you look like shit. This is the reason why.
Yep.
Okay? So now I know what it is I need to focus on. He doesn't pull any punches, and if you're serious about taking it to the next level, my goal obviously is to get my pro card, then you've gotta get right to it. And one of the biggest things I enjoy about Amber is the fact that his learning is ongoing. It doesn't stop. I forget, I meant to write it down, but he just completed a master's degree. He's like maybe one of 30 or 40 people in Canada that have this degree.
Nice.
He had to fly down to the States 4 or 5 times to complete this degree.
Wow.
And to be certified, taking tests. So having a coach is great. Having a coach who's constantly learning is better for yourself. It's an investment for them, obviously, as a coach, but it's an investment for you because you know that they're constantly learning. We all know that, bodybuilding, doesn't matter what class you're in, subcategories, it always changes.
Yep.
The look of the day is always changing. If you look at all of the overall winners or all of the pros, you can see that there's a change in the look. And the only way to stay on top of that is have a coach who knows what he's doing. And that's the importance of why I stress your own coaching.
That's awesome. So talk to me then, about how you guys have worked together. Like when you first came to him, what did he say? Did he look at you and be like, that's a pretty lofty goal, man? Like, I don't know. Or was he like, okay, let's do this? Like, kind of give me some feedback from both sides, do you think?
Sure, absolutely. When we first got together, he basically said, okay, what's your goal? I said, well, my goal is, if you think it's reasonable, I'd like to be pro in 5 years. And he goes, nothing's impossible. It all depends on how hard are you going to work to get to where you want to be.
Yep.
And sort of that's where everything's shaped around there. So he said, he says, you've got the symmetry, you got the size, it's there. What we have to do now is we have to work on it. So for me, for the past, couple of years or so of being together, I think we'll be on our 3rd year. We've been focusing on my weak area. So my delts, my chest, my back is good, but we're just enhancing it.
Yep.
When you have an area that you can't grow in one area, then you work on something else to compensate. So I'm having a bit of an issue with my chest area. So what we're doing is we're compensating by working on my back. You make the back look bigger, more muscular. You push out the front of the chest.
Yep.
It gives you that thickness, fullness kind of look.
Totally.
So you continue to work with what you have, and that's basically what we've been doing, working on that aspect.
Nice. Talk to me about his approach with you specifically when it comes to nutrition and cardio.
Okay, well, nutrition for me, we took about 2 years to find out what actually works for my body. Again, the importance of a coach, guys, is that my body doesn't function well with carbohydrates. My body functions much better with fats.
Okay.
So I run high fats. So I run low carbs. So right now, I'll give you, for example, right now, I'm running on the low end, but I'm running about 230 grams of protein, about 135 grams of fat or carbs, and about 200 grams of fats.
Oh, wow.
And the fats really climb up there for me. So there's a methodology behind what he does and how he does it to be able to get you to where you are. And it's like anything else. You've got to find out whether or not you're stagnant. If you're stagnant, why continue to give someone more food if your body is not adjusting to it? So, metabolism is very important. And so at an older age like me, I'm turning 48 this summer.
Yep.
So we have to keep an eye on metabolism. So when your body doesn't hit where it should with regards to the macros you've eaten, we basically no more macros. We wait until the body catches up. When the body catches up, then we add more macros to get us where we need to be. Obviously, there is no cardio in off season for me at all.
Right.
But if you want to talk about cardio, you want to talk about prep, I will give you guys some scary stories. Imagine yourself on a treadmill for 2 hours a day. That was my prep, and that's how I got down to 2 to 3% body fat. That was intense. That was really intense. My macros were protein, solely protein. That was it.
Yeah.
So when you want something, you focus on it. You can hit what you need to hit, and I know conditioning is probably one of the hardest things for a lot of people to get, and it's just mindset. You got to have that right mindset to be where you need to be. And, I feel like I'm starving to death, but are you really starving to death? People in Ethiopia are starving to death. You're not starving to death. You've got a mindset that you need to get over so that you can achieve the goal that you need to achieve.
It's funny you mentioned that. I find just this recently, actually, I've seen kind of like an influx of just through social media and stuff, and the circle that I'm in with bodybuilding online, that the suffer, for example, is almost being looked down upon, and like you know, I've coached a few bikini girls, and they've had to go pretty low to dig for it, right? And everybody, and you know, I was reading people talk about like, oh, you shouldn't be doing, you know, 2 hours on the treadmill a day like you were, or oh, you shouldn't be consuming, like I think I got down to like 1,400 calories when I was like near the end of my prep, which for me is very, very low. Oh, that's terrible. It's like, you got to do what you got to do, right? Like this isn't, and you know, people, oh, that can't be healthy. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I never said I'm doing this to be healthy, right? Like I think any competitor will say this isn't for health at that point. Yes, there's, you know, I feel my best probably the first like 8 weeks of prep. I feel good. I have energy. I'm eating really good. I'm not doing a ridiculous amount of cardio. I think my cardio to weights ratio, like I just feel very, very good. I would say that's healthy. But those last 4 to 6 weeks, come on, like this is bodybuilding after all, right? We're after something extreme.
Absolutely. We all know that, you know, bodybuilding prep week, you know, the last 6 to 8 weeks is not healthy.
No.
But you know that the difference is we don't do it every single day.
Exactly.
We do it to attain a goal for a short period of time.
Yep.
So do we suffer for a short period of time? Absolutely. Is it unhealthy? Absolutely. But do we repeat that cycle on the daily basis? Absolutely not. You know, but we have, you know, I have my regimen of vitamins and minerals that I take.
Yep.
I have my regimen of water that I take. You know, so long as you keep the essential things that you need in your body, we know, you know, what's going to happen. And that's another important thing to do, to understand is when you're in peak, you know, there are things that your body does when you're in starvation mode. It shuts down parts of your body to preserve the rest of your body. And a lot of women, they'll miss their periods. That's a frequent thing. It's going to happen. You have to be prepared for that because starvation mode shuts down functions of your body that it doesn't need. Yep. And let's just say your sex drive is the first thing to go.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be honest, at that point.
Let's be honest on the podcast right now. We are not getting much the last 6 to 8 weeks.
No, your body is just not there for that point. It's busy trying to recover your body, keep the muscle intact, and just, you know, mentally move on one step at a time.
Right on. No, I agree wholeheartedly. What is your approach, you know, with your coach when it comes to like refeeds or cheat meals or anything like that? Like, do you guys implement that kind of stuff or?
Absolutely. We've got to remember, and I think it's important to the listeners out there, and I think everybody should know that refeeds is not something that you're given. Refeed is something that's earned because your body requires it. So you don't overfill your gas tank when there's gas in there. What's the point? You only fill the tank when it's empty, and your body's that way. When your body becomes empty, your coach sees your pictures. He can see the depletion. He can see your skin. He can tell the way it looks and says, okay, now it's time for a refeed. Let's have this.
Yep.
You know, it's important to stay away from things that are inflammatory to your body. And that's something you just sort of need to know on yourself. But I'll give you an example. My body was in overdrive so badly at the Nationals because my body fat was so low that after having, you know, go out and have a greasy meal, need to have a greasy meal. So I went to the only thing open at 1 o'clock in the morning was McDonald's. Go out, have a Big Mac, have fries.
Yep.
Came back, waited an hour later. No, not good enough. Go back and eat again. It seemed at that point for that show, my body was in such an overdrive state. No amount of food would have filled me up. No amount of food. So that's a learning process, and that's why it's important. Stay with the coach that you're with because you built knowledge of your body together, and you need to keep that knowledge together to move on to the next stage that you want to get to.
Right on. When you are prepping and even in the off season a little bit, do you follow like a plan or do you just have macros that you track? Like, what's your approach with that?
Well, I find that more advanced bodybuilders, and again, I'm talking subcategories as well, bikini, physique, whatever the case may be. We're all bodybuilders because that's what we're doing.
Yep.
I find that they enjoy macros. I'm a macro person simply because I know, you know, what I want to put in my body and I know how much to put in it. But I'm very anal. I have a spreadsheet daily that I work on. I plan my meals ahead of time, and I follow those macro guidelines to have whatever I want to have. So I'm also in. Not a lot of people do this, but my off season, I'm 100%. Well, probably 98% whole foods only. So anybody saying off season whole foods, you're like, what? Isn't this for prep or something? No. You got to do what you got to do for your body to get the proper gains. Whole foods is important because if you have no additives in there, it's going to digest, boom, just like that, go through your body and utilize all of those nutrients right away versus, if you have something that's processed, well, it's got to separate all those chemicals in your body and it's harder on your body.
Yeah,
so
it's more work,
right? I'm whole foods to that time. Right now, I'll give you an example. I do a lot of hamburger, lean ground hamburger, chicken, lots of nuts, pistachios, walnut, anything high in fats.
Yep.
And eggs. I like my rice, potatoes, oatmeal. So it's, it sounds like I'm almost on prep, minus the hamburger. But, you do what you got to do. And that's what I do for my off season.
Right on. So moving forward, what's the game plan? So, are you off season now?
I'm off season now since August, so it'll be 1 year of off season coming up this August. And again, I'll continue through for another year of off season to make the necessary gains because that was the big focus. I got to work on the parts of my body that need to grow.
Yep.
And like we talked about in the beginning, when you start to work out, you don't care. You just work out because you like it.
Yeah.
But when you have a goal and you need to be where you need to be, that's where the coach tells you, okay, we got to focus on these parts, tweak them, make them look better. I was told that I don't need to get big. I just need to focus on parts of my body that need to be balanced out for that symmetry.
Yep, even things out for sure.
Exactly, and that's basically what we've been doing for this past year, and we'll continue to do the same thing right now, right up until probably 12 weeks before the show.
Sure. What's your training looking like right now? Like your split?
Right now we're focusing a lot on back. Shoulders are building up pretty good, so I've got actually 2 days of back in a week.
Yep.
So back, legs, shoulders, chest, and that's pretty much my arms. Sorry, day of arms. So 4 days of different muscle groups and 1 extra day of back, or 5 days. So that's 6 days a week is my regimen.
Right on. And you said no cardio right now?
No cardio.
Right on. How long what's a typical prep length for you?
I can do prep in as little as 6 weeks, but if I want to do it properly, I want to have about 8 to 12 weeks. But it all depends on, how is your off season going? Are you at that point prior to, the amount of time that you need? And I guess that's the way it is for everybody. Some people can maintain a lower body fat in their off season.
Yep.
Other people can't. For me, I'm experiencing probably my highest body fat that I've been on for my off season. But I realize, we got to all learn to be comfortable with our off season because we all can't
embrace the fluff
every day. You guys love your media. You like posting your pictures of your competitions, but embrace your off season. Because that is where the muscle is made. It's not made during peak week, my friends. It's off season. So embrace your body and embrace yourself during that off season.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I'm almost 40 pounds above stage weight, but like gym performance is up. Like everything's just moving good, right? So how can I be upset?
You're that off season is the time where you're going to be lifting some serious heavy weights and your joints are going to be taking it. So all that food, all that cushion, that helps you out. That helps the joints out. So you just got to remember that. That's where the size is.
100%. All right, dude. Before you go, I want 2 or 3 little tips you can give to the younger competitors coming up in this game.
Absolutely. I'm extremely big on positivity. I believe that it's important for us to set the example for the younger generation coming in. Be positive. Always be positive. If you focus on the negative, then, that's where your mindset is going to be. Your mindset always has to be positive. So focus on the positive outcomes of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Will you have setbacks? Absolutely. Will you mess up maybe one day? Absolutely. Put that day behind you and focus on the day ahead of you. Because these things will happen. Will you miss a day? Will it happen at gym? Absolutely. But again, put those things behind you. Although you might feel bad about it, the whole thing is make sure you have the mindset that you're going to go back and do it straight and go for it. I mean, failure is going to happen, and you've got to learn that the failure is what builds you for being successful. We all have to fail in order to become better, and that's one of the things you have to learn. The other thing is when you actually do compete, don't focus so much on what your placing is.
Yep.
You know, really what you need to do is focus on what did I accomplish during this whole set? What did I build up on my body during this whole period of time? And then what is it do I need to do to become better? And that's where our judges are really good at. I really highly suggest you pull a judge aside when they have an opportunity and say, hey, how did I do? What do you think? What do I need to work on? You know, Rudy and them, they're fantastic people. They're great to provide you the tips that you need to bring it to the next level. So those are a couple of small tips I'd put out there. Never give up. That's important.
Right on, man. Very, very good way to end this. Those were some wise words. And I agree. I agree on the positivity front for sure. Like, there's, especially near the end of prep, like, shit gets hard. You're hungry. You're tired. You have more dark days than bright ones at that stage. And it gets hard, right? And I think if you focus on, like you said, like, how far you've come, what you've accomplished, like, the person you became, like, all the things you accomplish on a daily basis, like, look at that stuff and you can't help but push forward, right?
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Right on, man. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know you got to get to work, so happy Saturday.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me. I enjoy it. This is good community building, and I think this is something that we all need to reach out and do more often. Reach out to somebody, give them a positive shout out, and then work with them, build with them. Just, this is what it's all about, community.
Right on. Well, this guy's Instagram will be linked in the description below, guys, so be sure to go give him a follow, check him out. And, man, time to grow, right?
Time to grow. We'll see you all next year in October.
That's right. Give this guy a follow and keep up to date with his journey. Thanks again, man, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Eric. Take care.
Bye.